what if the absolute smartest move you could make for your premium business right now was to just totally alienate a huge chunk of your potential clients?
I mean, it sounds completely backward, right?
It really does. But, think about your favorite luxury brand for a second.
Mhm.
The one that just feels entirely untouchable.
Right, the one that's just operating in its own stratosphere entirely.
Exactly. Because we're sort of conditioned to think that this untouchable status comes from, I don't know, a really universally appealing aesthetic or a logo that's everywhere.
Or just a super audacious price tag.
Right. But the truth, the actual architecture of true luxury is almost entirely invisible. And it usually involves a lot more rejection than acceptance.
Which is such a hard reality check for most founders to swallow.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend so much time obsessing over the visual identity,
Oh, totally. The packaging, the campaigns.
the exact right font.
Yeah.
But we completely ignore the behavioral identity. And the behavioral identity is what actually insulates a business from the competition.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are looking at this really fascinating masterclass designed for ambitious entrepreneurs in the luxury market.
Yeah, the ones who actually want to build something defensible.
Exactly. And our source for this framework is Dr. Ari Masudi. And his background is so interesting because he's a former researcher in regenerative medicine.
Right, which is quite the pivot.
Yeah. He went from regenerative medicine to becoming a business consultant for the beauty industry.
And you can really see that scientific rigor in how he approaches things. He doesn't look at corporate brand identity as an art project.
Mm-hmm.
He treats it like a biological system.
Yeah.
Like it has to be backed by deeply rooted values and actual observable behaviors.
So let's frame this with an analogy for you listening. Think of a brand like a person's reputation.
Okay.
Like you can wear this bespoke, incredibly tailored suit, and that suit is your logo, right? It's your website, your whole aesthetic.
Right, you look the part.
But if you consistently show up like 45 minutes late to every single meeting and you're rude to the receptionist.
Your actual identity is just that you're unreliable.
Yeah.
And arrogant.
Exactly. The fancy suit cannot save you from your own terrible behavior. And Dr. Masudi argues that the luxury market treats businesses the exact same way.
Because the foundational rule here is that your brand is every single decision you make, big or small.
Mm-hmm.
The luxury market is just notoriously unforgiving. It will ruthlessly punish any gap between what a company, declares in some polished mission statement
Right.
and what the market actually observes them doing every day. Identity is action. It's not a declaration.
It's in the physical weight of the unboxing experience, right? Or like the exact tone the customer service team uses.
Or even the discipline to turn down a super lucrative deal.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't quite fit your core expertise.
Yeah, and the legacy brands, the really untouchable ones, they do this flawlessly. Like the masterclass uses Chanel as an example.
Oh, their approach to e-commerce is fascinating.
It's wild. For years, they've just completely refused to launch an online sales platform for their ready-to-wear clothing or their signature bags.
Mm-hmm.
And wait, let me just push back on this for a second, because on paper, refusing the infinite reach of the internet in 2026 sounds like corporate suicide.
It sounds like they're leaving mountains of cash on the table.
Yeah. Are they really ignoring that massive revenue stream just to preserve, what, a fitting room ritual?
Well, they're actively choosing friction over convenience, and that choice is their strategic barrier.
How so?
Think about the homogenization of e-commerce. You buy a $5,000 jacket using the exact same add to cart button that you use to buy a $5 pack of socks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that completely strips away the context.
Exactly. Chanel's behavior is communicating that their identity is totally inseparable from the physical, tactile aristocracy of their boutiques.
You can't digitize the heavy silence of the fitting room.
Right. Or the choreography of the staff.
Yeah.
So by refusing to sell online, that refusal becomes this concrete proof of their values.
It's the physical action of saying no that actually proved. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and the source material also points to Augustinus Bader, the high-end skincare line, which connects right back to Dr. Masudi's medical roots.
Oh, right, because they built their entire corporate identity on the credibility of one scientist, right, and his research in cellular repair.
Exactly. Clinical legitimacy is their core value. So every operational decision they make has to reinforce that specific aura.
So when they decided to use this incredibly restrictive selective distribution model, instead of just putting their blue bottles on literally every premium shelf in the world.
That wasn't just a cautious rollout strategy. It was a mechanism to preserve their authority.
Because scarcity makes it feel more like a scientific breakthrough.
Precisely. If this rare, specialized clinical formula is suddenly at every corner store, the illusion of rarity is just destroyed. Mass distribution contradicts clinical exclusivity.
Okay, but this relentless consistency brings up a really interesting vulnerability, I think.
What do you mean?
Well, you could be making all these disciplined choices, sitting sitting in your headquarters, fully convinced you have this crystal clear identity. But Dr. Masudi says that your own internal opinion of your brand is completely irrelevant.
Oh, yeah. It is undeniably irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that is the single hardest concept for founders to internalize.
I can imagine.
But it's also profoundly liberating. Your identity only exists as a reflection. It's a social contract. It's not your personal conviction.
So it only lives in the eyes of the market.
Yes, which means all those expensive, multi-day executive offsite retreats where they make mood boards,
And draft those 50-page manifestos that nobody reads.
they're completely useless if the market doesn't organically perceive those exact same themes. They do the work in a vacuum.
Without the client even in the room. You know what it's exactly like? It's like dating.
Huh? How so?
You can stand in your bathroom mirror giving yourself a pep talk, right? Declaring, I am hilarious. I am so charming. I am intellectual. But if you go to dinner and your date doesn't laugh or care about anything you say, you are not funny. The market is the date.
That's a perfect analogy. The market decides your attributes based on your behavior, not your mirror pep talk.
So how do we actually win over the date? Or the market, rather?
Well, let's look at Frederic Malle. He's a quintessential case study in this. When he launched Edition de Parfum in 2000, he disrupted the entire power dynamic of the fragrance industry.
Because before him, perfumers were basically ghostwriters, right?
Exactly. The fashion house took all the glory, and the actual creators were locked away in the labs.
But Malle did the exact opposite.
He did. He didn't position himself as the lone creative genius. He put the actual perfumers' names, legends like Dominique Ropion and Jean-Claude Alina, right on the front of the bottles.
Oh, wow. And didn't he also publish the actual creative briefs he gave them?
Yes, which is radical transparency in an industry that was obsessed with secrecy and marketing mythology.
So he completely changed the relationship with the consumer.
Right, because the client wasn't being sold some fabricated story about a Parisian romance anymore. They were buying a documented, transparent relationship with a master artisan.
And because of that action, the market organically perceived him as this singular, respected luxury house.
Exactly. The behavior dictated the perception.
But that brings up this dangerous tension the source calls the legibility paradox.
Oh, this is crucial.
Because if you're uncompromising and completely unique, how do you avoid becoming so niche that people just don't get it?
You have to manage the cognitive load of your consumer. You must be unique to survive in luxury, otherwise you're commoditized.
Right.
But your proposition also has to be instantly understandable. If it's too complex, the brain just categorizes you as too difficult to process and ignores you.
The masterclass compares Burrito to a hypothetical technical master perfumer, right?
Yeah, Burrito goes to market with this incredibly legible, emotional idea. Scent is memory.
Which anyone can grasp instantly. You don't need a chemistry degree to understand you're buying an emotional archive.
Contrast that with the technical perfumer who sits down with a buyer and spends 20 minutes detailing solvent purity and extraction methods.
And olfactory pyramids.
Right. The perfumer thinks they're proving their value, but they are actually completely obscuring their relevance. They're creating cognitive overload.
As Dr. Masudi says, clarity does not cheapen a luxury proposition. Obscurity does.
Exactly. If you sever the emotional thread connecting your craft to what the client actually desires, your expertise is commercially worthless.
So the market has to understand why your perfectionism matters to them.
And counterintuitively, the loudest way to achieve that clarity isn't by talking about what you do, it's by visibly demonstrating what you refuse to do.
The power of refusal. This is such a paradigm shift.
The brands with real cultural permanence polarize the market by saying no to standard industry practices. Look at Hermes.
Oh, yeah. They refuse to have a loyalty program, right?
Exactly. No points, no tiered VIP gold cards, no gamified rewards.
Which is crazy when the whole rest of the luxury and travel sector relies completely on those algorithms to keep people attached.
But Hermes is basically saying, our relationship with you is organic. We don't need to engineer incentives to sustain it.
That signals so much confidence. Points can't buy that kind of flex.
It's brand building through exclusion. The source also mentions Dr. Barbara Sturm in the aesthetic space.
Right. She built this massive skincare empire while publicly refusing to use retinol.
Which is huge. The whole anti-aging market basically worships retinol. Refusing it is an enormous risk.
But strategically, it's brilliant. It's a heuristic.
Exactly. It instantly polarizes the market. It filters out people looking for standard solutions and fiercely attracts clients who value discipline. They love what she leaves out even more than what she puts in.
Okay, but let's talk about the mechanics of alienating actual human beings, because the source brings up Celine under Hedi Slimane.
Oh, that was a massive shakeup.
Right. When he took over, he essentially torched the brand's established aesthetic. He alienated created this massive, loyal client base overnight.
But isn't the fundamental rule of business to keep your loyal base happy and just acquire more people?
In the mass market, yes. In luxury, absolutely not. Dr. Masudi's framework says polarization is not a risk in luxury. Consensus is.
Wait, consensus is the risk.
Yes, the instinct to appeal broadly, to be universally agreeable and inoffensive, that is the fastest route to commoditization.
So true luxury doesn't care about broad appeal.
It operates entirely on the depth of desire within a highly specific self-selecting cohort.
A brand that a million people sort of like is fragile.
But a brand that is a profound cultural identifier for 10,000 people, that is bulletproof.
Because those 10,000 people integrated into their identity, they'll cross oceans for it, they'll defend it online.
Exactly. So when Celine alienated its old base, it was a filtration mechanism. The new aesthetic polarized the market and rebuilt their cultural authority.
A gentle, consensus-driven evolution could never have done that.
Never. And it's the same logic for the aesthetic clinic mentioned in the Astor class.
Oh, the one that explicitly promises natural results.
Right. By drawing a hard line in a market that's obsessed with extreme visible interventions, they are broadcasting, we are not for everyone.
They force the market to self-select, and the people who do choose them become fiercely loyal because they feel protected by those boundaries.
Exactly. But I know what you're thinking. Theory is elegant, but execution is messy.
It is. How does a team actually enforce this on a random Tuesday when a really lucrative off-brand partnership is on the table and the CFO wants revenue?
You need a highly functional internal mechanism. Dr. Masudi calls it the conduct principle.
Okay, the conduct principle.
Wow.
And it's 5 words or fewer, right?
Yes. And crucially, it is not a marketing tagline. It's not for a billboard or an Instagram bio.
It's an internal compass.
Right. When a new product line is proposed, this 5-word principle should instantly settle the debate. It totally eliminates subjectivity.
I love this. I picture it like a bouncer at an exclusive club.
The bouncer.
Yeah, it's not the neon sign outside. It's the bouncer with the clipboard checking the ideas of every single idea your team has. If it doesn't match the 5 words, it doesn't get in.
That's brilliant. Rimowa, the luggage brand, is a perfect example of this. For decades, their conduct principle was basically built to last a lifetime.
Which dictated their aluminum sourcing, their repairs, the pricing, everything.
But the real test of a conduct principle is if it survives an acquisition.
Oh, right. Because LVMH bought them, didn't they?
They did. And LVMH wanted to pivot Rimowa toward luxury streetwear and youth culture.
Which sounds like a huge identity clash. How do you pivot a heritage engineering brand into hype culture without ruining its credibility?
You evolve the application, but you preserve the core promise. So under LVMH, the principle shifted to iconic durability in motion.
Oh, wow. Iconic durability in motion.
They kept the non-negotiable promise durability, but opened it up to cultural collaborations and modern travel.
It still works perfectly as a bouncer, but the source makes a big point that this principle is just a hallucination if there's no tangible proof.
Yes, your identity must be provable.
Right.
If upholding it hasn't actually cost you something, time, money, or a lost opportunity, it's just a hollow claim.
The 2016 renovation of the Ritz Paris is such a great example of this tangible proof.
Oh, they took it to an almost irrational degree.
Right. When they closed for that multi-year overhaul, they didn't just put out a press release about historical authenticity.
They spent 4 years and hundreds of millions of euros restoring hidden artisanship.
Things most guests will literally never notice, like historic plumbing fixtures and specific masonry details.
But that is the psychology of hidden perfection. The human brain registers the subliminal weight of that quality.
Even if we don't have the vocabulary for it, it's the accumulation of these invisible, wildly expensive decisions that creates an aura you just can't counterfeit.
A competitor can rip off your logo tomorrow.
But they can't fake a decade of deeply embedded, costly behavior.
Exactly. Which brings us to the immediate application for you, the listener. The masterclass gives a very specific 3-step action plan.
Step 1, audit your social contract. Go to 3 of your absolute best clients and ask them, if you were recommending us, what would you say we do better than anyone else?
And don't prompt them. Write down their exact words. That data is your actual identity.
And if there's a big gap between what they say and what you think you are, fix it.
Step 2, draft the bouncer. Write your conduct principle in 5 words or less.
And stress test it against your last 3 really tough business decisions. decisions. If it wouldn't have helped you decide, it's too vague.
Rewrite it until it's an uncompromising filter. And finally, step 3, visible refusal.
Find one thing you're doing right now that slightly contradicts your value, a weird distribution channel, or a client you just keep around for the recurring revenue.
Cut it off today and explain to your remaining clients why you stopped.
That explanation is when your brand identity goes from being a theory to an actual defensible barrier.
It takes immense discipline, but that accumulation of difficult choices is what compounds into an untouchable reputation.